Have you ever felt that, after a certain age, the arrival of a dog is no longer just about companionship? That they don't just enter your home, but your soul? Maybe you can't fully explain it, but you feel something has shifted. The silence feels fuller, their presence almost sacred. And this doesn't happen to everyone. In truth, only the awakened truly sense what's really going on. Because this kind of connection goes beyond logic. It's as if the dog knows exactly where your pain is. As if they carry a silent wisdom that watches you, without judgment. And just by looking into their eyes, you feel that something inside you has begun to heal. Maybe you've been through losses, through seasons of retreat, through a kind of loneliness that no one else seems to understand. And then suddenly, this being appears, gently, as if they knew, as if they were sent. And what seemed like just an adoption becomes a reunion. If you're feeling this, stay here. This message is for you, and the most important part hasn't even been revealed yet. If this touched your field, it was meant to. This message isn't appearing in your feed by accident. It came as a reflection, an energetic mirror, a remembrance. Because only those who are already in the process of awakening can truly recognize that the arrival of a dog after 40 is no coincidence. It's a calling. Not everyone understands it. For many, it still seems like a simple choice, a stage in life when you want companionship, routine, affection. But the awakened, they feel differently. They sense that something more is happening in the unseen. A subtle movement, quiet but profound. And even without being able to explain it in words, they know that what began in that moment was a crossing. Maybe you've already noticed it yourself. Since that being entered your life, something began to shift. The way you see the world became softer. You started to reorganize. You began to observe more, to feel more, even to cry over things that never touched you before. That's a sign of opening, of vibrational refinement, of your field beginning to align with something greater. And most importantly, you are not alone. There are others like you, people who've carried a strange sensitivity since childhood, who've always felt too much, who've been called too sensitive, intense, or different. But now, they're starting to recognize themselves, to find each other, because this awakening doesn't happen in loud collective waves. It happens in the silence of the soul, in intimacy with the invisible, in the unexplainable bond with a being who doesn't speak but understands everything. And if this is making sense to you, even if only in part, it's because you're already in it. You're already vibrating within this field. This video didn't come to teach you anything. It came to confirm what you've already been feeling, but hadn't yet found the words to express. You're not becoming too sensitive. You're becoming more real. You're not needy. You're opening up to a new way of loving, one that doesn't demand perfection, but presence. One that doesn't criticize, but embraces. And that's why this dog arrived now. Because you're ready. Ready to notice what many ignore. Ready to feel what few are able to hold. Ready to remember what your soul has always known. You didn't tell anyone, but you noticed. Ever since this dog came into your life, there's been a different kind of silence inside you. A lightness that doesn't come from the outside. As if someone finally filled a space that had been empty for a long time, a space you had almost forgotten even existed. It's subtle, but it's real. You wake up differently. The weight in your chest that used to greet you in the morning now feels lighter, or doesn't show up at all. The anxiety that once hovered around your thoughts seems to slow down when they lay beside you. Even time feels different. It moves more slowly when you're just there, simply watching them, doing nothing. And the most curious part, you feel like you're doing everything, even while doing nothing at all. This isn't coincidence. It's a symptom, a sign that something within you has started to reorganize. And it wasn't them who changed everything. It was you allowed them to activate a field that had been asleep. Maybe you've started crying over things that never moved you before. Maybe you looked into their eyes and felt truly seen, without judgment, without pressure, without expectation. Just seen. As if, for the first time, someone was looking at you with their soul. And you realized that this silent gaze was healing you, without needing a single word. Your energy has shifted. Your sensitivity has grown. Your body has started asking for simpler things. More rest, more silence, more nature, and, at the same time, more truth. You may have lost interest in certain conversations, certain people, certain environments. Not because you've become antisocial, but because something in you has started to vibrate differently. And everything that no longer matches that frequency begins to drift away on its own. And there's more. Sometimes, all it takes is for them to lie down nearby, and the fear disappears. As if that silent presence were saying, "I'll hold this field for you." And even without understanding how, you feel protected. The house feels more alive. Even your thoughts seem clearer. And in a way that feels almost magical, they begin to act as an invisible guardian of your emotional world. Maybe you found yourself pausing just to watch them sleep and felt a peace you hadn't felt in years. Or maybe you listened to their breathing, and in that moment, something within you went quiet for the first time in a long while. These are the symptoms, the signs that your heart is beginning to open again. Your sleep may have changed, deeper, more peaceful, and some nights you wake with the strange sensation that something was being watched over while you rested, as if somehow they were keeping the space safe, even in silence. And you noticed how sometimes they stare into the distance, eyes fixed on nothing as if they're seeing beyond. And in that moment, you feel they're sensing something you haven't accessed yet. That they're holding frequencies you couldn't manage on your own, as if they were filtering the unseen before it could reach you. Some say dogs feel things before humans do, but the awakened, they understand something deeper. They realize these beings are actually showing us what we forgot how to feel, the intuition we silenced, the love we stopped believing in, the sense of safety we searched for outside ourselves for far too long. That afternoon when you weren't feeling well, and they rested their head on your chest, you didn't say a word, but everything was heard. You didn't cry, but everything was received. They didn't heal you. They simply activated what already knew the way back inside you. They weren't just with you. They transmuted ancestral pain your mind no longer remembered, but that your body still carried. And they did it in silence, with presence, with consistency. They don't speak, but they say everything. They don't demand, but they teach. They don't judge, but they reveal. And only an awakened soul can recognize this kind of healing without needing any proof. Maybe you thought all of this started with an adoption, a heart-led decision, a visit to a shelter, or an ad that showed up at just the right time. But what if I told you none of it was a coincidence? What if this dog didn't just appear in your life, but was sent? There is an ancient, silent wisdom that says, when the soul is ready, the guardian appears. And what many call a pet, the awakened recognize as an ancient archetype, a living symbol, a vibrational messenger sent by your own higher consciousness to activate a new cycle of healing. After 40, something shifts in the soul's field, a fold in the personal timeline. Life up until now has, in many ways, been a school of survival, intense emotions, wounds, searching, losses, new beginnings. But from this point forward, the energy field of consciousness begins to ask for something more. Not more external achievements, but deep internal reconnection. It's the moment the soul gently says, "Now, I want to come home." But this return isn't made through words. It begins with presence. And some of those presences come on 4 legs. A dog doesn't show up in this phase by chance. They arrive because you've started to emit a certain frequency, one that only beings of high sensitivity can pick up. And those beings like them respond. They're not just a companion. They are a vibrational guardian, a conscious mirror, a bridge between the visible and the invisible. Have you noticed how they watch you in silence? How they sense your emotional state before you say a word? How they approach you at the exact moments when your energy begins to drop? That's not instinct. That's resonance. A dog operates on a vibrational plane where there is no such thing as a lie. They feel everything. And that's why, when they enter your life after 40, it's because your field has called in a companion that vibrates with truth. At this stage of life, you can no longer maintain superficial connections. You can no longer pretend to be someone you're not. The soul is asking for real presence, and they arrived as a response. But their presence doesn't only heal the now, it travels across layers of time. They touch wounds that were opened decades ago, perhaps in childhood, perhaps in other lifetimes, perhaps in memories that aren't even entirely yours, but that have traveled through generations, seeking healing in your field. Many who feel chosen today were guardians in other lifetimes, and now They are receiving back what they once gave: silent protection, love without words, spiritual vigilance. And how do they heal? With their gaze, with silence, with unwavering presence. They don't heal you by telling you what needs to change. They heal you by staying close while you change, while you break down, while you rebuild yourself with more truth. Have you ever felt like they understand you more than most people do? That's because they don't listen with their ears. They listen with the field. They read your waves. They feel your intentions. They sense where your pain is stored even when you try to hide it. And they don't confront you for it. They stay. And in that staying, something within you begins to release. In higher spirituality, the dog represents the guardian of the crossing. They appear in mythologies, in dreams, in visions seen by those moving through inner portals. And in your life, they appeared when a portal opened too. You may not have realized it, but during that time when they arrived, something inside you was breaking apart. A cycle, a pattern, an old way of living. And perhaps you were feeling a deep, existential tiredness. A silent, "I've had enough." A soul's request for lightness, for pause, for depth. And then they arrived. And with them, a new kind of time began. A time without hurry, without pressure, without masks. A time where you could simply exist and still be loved, just as you are. The energy in the house changed. The walls feel lighter, the air cleaner, as if, along with them, a new vibration had settled in. As if home had finally become a safe space, not just physically, but spiritually. Because that's what they represent: a return to essence, the breaking of emotional armor, the end of effort in exchange for love, and the beginning of a new phase where love is no longer something you have to earn, but something you finally allow. They were sent as a symbol, as a key, as an echo of your own inner call. And if you're deep enough to notice it, you'll understand that their arrival wasn't just a beautiful event. It was a spiritual answer, a code, a vibrational gift from another dimension. You might have thought you adopted this dog, that you made the choice, that it was a gesture of love or a rational decision. But the truth is something else entirely. You didn't adopt the dog. They found you. And it wasn't just physical. They found your field. They felt your frequency. They recognized a silent code that was ready to be activated. What they do for you goes far beyond companionship. They are opening portals within your soul, reawakening centers of sensitivity that had been asleep, awakening a layer of your being one you didn't even know was still there. And they do it in the purest way, through presence. Since they arrived, parts of you that had been locked away have begun to breathe again. The energy of your heart has shifted into another frequency. And that frequency isn't the kind of love the world sells. It's the kind of love that welcomes without asking. That warms you from the inside. That touches what no word can reach. You notice it in the details, in the way they look at you when you're silent, in how your thoughts slow down just because they're nearby, in the comfort that rises from their presence even when they do nothing at all. It's as if they tune you into something higher, purer, more essential. Little by little, your soul begins to remember what it feels like to feel without fear, to trust without tension, to love without measuring. This is activation. It's when the heart, once guarded, begins to lower its defenses. When the body, once always on alert, finally learns to rest. When the soul, once lost in the noise, begins to hear its own melody again. They activate you without ever touching. They heal you without speaking. They transform you without trying. And over time, you begin to notice that something within you has changed. Old traumas lose their grip. The constant self-pressure begins to fade. The guilt of not being perfect starts to dissolve. And in its place, compassion is born not just for them but for yourself. You begin to say no without guilt, to cry without shame, to rest without needing to explain. Because somehow taught you that living lightly isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And that wisdom was already inside you, waiting for a signal to awaken. The way they stay by your side even on your worst days rewires something in you. Because they don't need you to be okay all the time. They just need you to be. And that acceptance changes everything. It shakes the emotional foundation that made you believe you had to earn love by being perfect. And then, something deeper begins to happen. Over time, forgotten memories start to rise. Childhood moments, sounds, scents, scenes you hadn't thought of in years, but that still needed to be held. They don't just make you feel, they help you release. They help you let go of what your body was still holding on to. And on an ordinary night, you look at them and realize you're not the same person anymore. Something has shifted from the inside out. You feel more whole, more present, more real. And it wasn't a logical process. It was vibrational. More than that, you realize you're not just being healed, you're being repositioned. Your frequency is shifting, and with it, your mission. The world will start to feel that change. Others will be touched by it, even without knowing why. They didn't come to fill a void. They came to open a door. An inner door, one only you could walk through. But you needed a sign, a guide, a reminder. And they were that reminder. A catalyst, a living key. An activation in the form of a gaze, a touch, and sacred silence. And all of this began the day they crossed your timeline. Now, I want to invite you to do something rare. A real pause. Right here, where you are. Not just stopping your body, but allowing something within you to settle. Take a deep breath. With intention. Exhale slowly. Let the air carry away all the tension you've been holding. And if you feel called to, close your eyes. Not out of obligation, but out of reverence. Reverence for this moment. For your field. For your soul. And in that silence, just remember. Remember the moment this being entered your life. Don't focus on the date. Return to the feeling. The vibrational state of that day. Maybe it was unexpected. Maybe some part of you already knew. Maybe it seemed like chance, or maybe it was something much greater. Do you remember what you felt? What has shifted in you since then? Even if you've never said it out loud. Maybe you've started sleeping better, breathing deeper, thinking less, and feeling more. Maybe you've rediscovered a kind of peace you'd forgotten how to recognize. And with it, the permission to simply be, without needing to explain yourself. Allow yourself a few seconds of stillness now. Eyes closed, heart open. Feel what still lives inside you. Now ask yourself, who were you before you felt this kind of love? Who are you today? What part of you is still resisting surrendering fully? What part of you is asking to be held right now? Don't answer with your mind. Just listen. Let your body speak. Let your chest respond. Let your field say what logic can't reach. This silence you feel now, it isn't absence. It's space. It's where your soul can finally hear itself. Maybe you've spent your whole life taking care of everything and everyone. Maybe you forgot what it feels like to be cared for. And now, someone is caring for you. Silently, steadily, without asking for anything in return. Maybe they simply laid down beside you. And in that moment, the world felt a little less cruel. You didn't say anything, but everything was heard. You didn't ask for help, but you were held. That's not small. That's sacred. This dog didn't come just to walk by your side. They came to hold a space, a safe field where, for the first time in a long time, you could let go of the urgency, the defenses, the expectations. And there, in that sacred emptiness, rebuild yourself with truth. This space is not a technique, not a practice. It's a remembering, a return, a reunion with your own light. It's the place where you and your essence begin to speak again, guided by a being who never needed to speak to teach you everything. Keep your eyes closed for a few more seconds. Feel the pulse of your soul now. It's more alive, more present, more whole. You don't have to explain this to anyone, because what happened here, only you and your soul truly know. This space has no walls, no dogma. It's an invisible temple that only the awakened can enter, and you have entered it. And even after this video ends, the field remains. Because it wasn't created out here, it was awakened within you. You might still try to believe this was just an adoption. You might keep telling yourself it was a coincidence, that they came at the right time, that it was just a way to fill a void, a sweet gesture, a companion, a moment of emotion. But something inside you already knows. This was much more than it seemed. Because no being enters your life like this and changes everything inside unless they're carrying a message. No gaze pierces you so deeply unless it's delivering something sacred. No presence stays with such quiet strength unless it's holding something greater. And what they're holding even in silence is a field, a code, a reminder. You can choose to ignore this. Go back to your routine. Pretend that nothing really happened here, that nothing truly resonated, that you just listened to a beautiful video and got a little emotional. But the truth is, if you made it this far, it's because something was touched, something you can no longer pretend you didn't feel. You know that something was activated. You know they didn't come into your life by chance. And more than that, you know you have a mission alongside them. The connection between you isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. It's not just about affection, it's about soul recognition. They're not simply by your side. They are with you, energetically fulfilling something only the two of you can understand. This kind of bond can't be explained. It can only be felt. And when the soul feels, it can't go back. Because once it sees, it can no longer unsee. Once you experience this kind of love, everything changes. The masks begin to feel heavy. Distractions lose their shine. Escapes stop working. You might try to ignore it, but somewhere in your days, you'll feel that something's missing, that you're avoiding the truth, that you're ignoring a spiritual calling that was handed to you in the form of pause, eyes, and silence. They didn't come to fill your emptiness. They came to show you where you were already empty. And now that you've seen it, what will you do with that truth? Will you close your eyes again? Pretend this was just another phase? Just another pet? This kind of calling doesn't return in the same way. This frequency, this presence, this code comes once. And if you're going to feel it completely. Because yes, it is possible to waste a spiritual gift. It's possible to shut down again, to return to autopilot. You spent your life searching for signs. And when one finally came, you recognized it. Will you deny it now? Every soul feels the calling, but not every soul has the courage to answer. This isn't about the dog. It's about you with yourself, about what you'll choose to do with the new vibration that has been awakened. Will you bury it again, or will you allow it to bloom? And what if their mission is to awaken yours? What if you're holding something the world needs, but you've been too afraid to reveal? Because yes, there is a risk. If you don't listen, the field closes, not as punishment, but because it wasn't honored. And when a spiritual field isn't received, it dissolves. And with it goes the opportunity for rebirth. This love arrived because you are ready. And if you are ready, you can't run anymore. If they found you, it's because you carry something that needs to be awakened. Something the world is waiting for you to bring to life. And keeping that asleep is wasting your own light. But something in you, if you've made it this far, has already made a silent decision. A decision not to go back to autopilot, not to live on the surface anymore, to allow this connection to change everything, because it already has. Now, breathe with it, sit with it, and if you'd like, say nothing. You don't need to explain this to anyone. What happened here, only you and your soul know, and that is enough. If this message found you today, it wasn't by chance. This kind of frequency doesn't arrive by distraction. It shows up when the soul is open, when the field is ready, when your inner vibration is already calling for something greater, even if in silence. Maybe you cried. Maybe you simply sat in stillness. Maybe you just felt something different, a peace, a memory, a desire to breathe more deeply. It doesn't matter what it was. What matters is that something was touched, and when that happens, there's no going back. You crossed a portal here, and portals are not crossed for entertainment. They're crossed by destiny, by purpose, by truth. Take a deep breath. Stay a little longer. Feel what's still vibrating within you, what's still pulsing, even after everything has already been said. That silence holds the answers you didn't even know you needed. If this message spoke to your soul, write in the comments, "I am awakened. He chose me." That sentence is a spiritual anchor, a signal to the universe, a vibrational code that says, "I heard, I saw, and now I know." It is also a beacon for other awakened ones, for those who are almost remembering and just need a sign. And if you feel called to share this, do it as someone offering a key, as someone offering something sacred. It's not about convincing anyone. It's about radiating presence. Because sometimes, your presence alone is the awakening of someone else. You weren't chosen by accident. There is something in you the world needs, a vibration only you carry, a love only you know how to feel in this way. And now that it's been activated, it is your responsibility not to ignore it, This activation wasn't meant to entertain you. It was meant to remind you of what you carry, of the light you forgot, of the frequency you represent, and that must now be shared with the world. Now, the world doesn't need you to do more. It needs you to vibrate differently, to walk with more truth, to love with more presence, to be here with your soul. You are not alone. There are other awakened ones walking this same frequency. And each comment here is like a light turning on along the path, an invisible map of souls awakening together, a confirmation that the calling has arrived and is being honored. If your soul feels it, keep going. There's another video waiting for you, another frequency, another activation, and it won't appear just because YouTube recommended it. It will arrive because your field will call it in. And before you go, just one more moment. Close your eyes, breathe again. Slower this time, with more soul. Feel the field you helped open, and know this: it is still alive, right here, right now, in you. Come back anytime you forget, anytime the world feels too heavy, anytime you need to remember who you truly are. This connection doesn't end when the video ends, because what was awakened here will keep vibrating within you. You are not alone. You never were. And now, you know.